Hi, this is Joel Johnson with Johnson Renegade. Before we go over what you need to know about your Social Security benefits, remember, subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell icon so you get notified every time that we upload new retirement planning content. Social Security. So many questions about Social Security that people have. And here's the big problem with learning about Social Security benefits. There's all kinds of information out there. And what does most of that information tell you about Social Security benefits? What does it say? It says wait as long as possible. Wait till you're 70 years old when you get the maximum benefit. In fact, most of us close to retirement or in retirement, we have this thing in our head that says, well, for every year I wait, my benefits go up 8%. We're going to get to that in just a minute because that's kind of the wrong way to look at things. But let's talk a little bit about some of the misnomers about Social Security. First of all, people think Social Security is going to go broke. Well, there is not really any kind of a trust fund. It's just simply a debit in the books of our United States Treasury about what Social Security owes. But Social Security is a pay-as-you-go system, which means I'm still working, I'm paying into Social Security to finance the benefits of the people collecting Social Security. So if you're collecting Social Security, there's not this big pot of money sitting there that you're collecting from. You're actually collecting that money from the workers that are currently working, and that's just how it works. So for those of you that think, oh, Social Security is going to go broke by the year 2032 or whatever the last projection is, that's not really how it works. We do have an issue. We do have a demographic issue where there aren't enough young people to finance all the benefits that have been promised. For instance, to me, I'm 60 years old, but it's highly likely that Congress won't continue to approve Social Security benefits. Why? Who votes the most? People that vote the most are retired. The retirees are the biggest voting bloc, and believe me, congressmen, senators, the president knows where those votes come from. So it's unlikely that Social Security benefits will be cut or will not be able to be financed for at least a little while, but it could cause a problem with taxation. Now, I have a son that's 32 years old. He's my oldest. I have 4 boys. The youngest is 23 years old. I'm telling them, don't count on Social Security. Don't plan for Social Security. Do your own retirement planning. But if you're over 55 years old, I don't think you have to worry about getting your Social Security benefits. Let's back up to some of those misnomers I talked about a little bit earlier. The fact that you should always wait till you're age 70, that is not the case, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But part of that has to do with a lot of factors, one of them being how long are you going to live? If you waited till age 70 to collect Social Security and you die at age 72, you left a lot of money in the system. So don't pay attention to those magazines in the grocery store that tell you everybody should wait till you're 70. That is a mistake. Now here's the most important thing you need to understand about Social Security. So critical you understand this. Social Security is an asset. You need to look at your Social Security just like another account in your whole financial picture. A few years back, I did a calculation on what the value is of my Social Security benefits, and the value is about $400,000. Now, you don't think of it that way because you think, well, I'm just going to get a monthly check. But if I looked at how much money would I need to pay out that monthly check that I'm promised based on my life expectancy, it's $400,000. So if you had an account with $400,000 sitting in it, obviously you would look at that as an asset. So we want to make sure that we view Social Security properly. It's not just this monthly payments. That's how it manifests itself, but it is an asset. Very important that you frame your Social Security thinking with that in mind. Now, secondly, withdrawal strategies. How am I going to withdraw the money? Part of that is based on my life expectancy, but part of it is also, I'm married to Wendy. She's 3 years younger. So if I collect at age 62, she can't collect yet because she's not at age 62. If I wait to 70, when can she collect? This is part of a withdrawal strategy. She might want to collect at age 62, and I don't collect until I'm 70 for a number of different reasons. So let's talk about some factors that go into that withdrawal strategy. Again, I keep saying this, life expectancy goes into the withdrawal strategy. When should I start taking out the benefits? Should Wendy collect at the same time I do? Maybe not. She could collect at 62. We don't really need the money, but if we want to trigger getting some money out of the system that we've paid in for so many years, maybe she should collect at age 62. Maybe I should wait till age 70. Why? Because remember, if I die first, she gets my survivor's benefits. And statistically speaking, if we're both in approximately the same health and we're both the same age, she's going to outlive me by 7 years. So maybe I want to give her the biggest survivor benefit possible by waiting to collect. But she could collect under her own benefit and then get my survivor's benefit if I die first, or just get a benefit calculated on my benefit once I start collecting. Gets a little complicated here, but again, the point is, don't just walk in blindly to this and say, I ought to wait as long as possible. That's not necessarily the case. Now, let me just say, some of you have heard about these withdrawal strategies called file and suspend and so on and so forth. For most of you listening to this, it's too late to do that. Those rules changed when we went back and we had some law changes just a few years ago, and you can no longer play this, I'm going to call it a game. It wasn't really a game, it was a strategy, but you can no longer play this game where I file for my Social Security benefits, then I say I don't want my benefits, but then Wendy files based on my benefits and gets her own check, and then later on, when I collect my benefit, she switches over to my benefit. Sounds a little confusing, doesn't it? Well, it was. But there was sort of a workaround of the system that Congress closed the gap on, or closed the door on, a little while back. So we can no longer do some of those sophisticated strategies. Now the biggest issue is, when am I going to collect? And am I going to collect for both myself and my wife at the same time, or should one of us wait? Now the next thing we want to talk about, and again, I'm talking about when we should collect Social Security here, but let's get back to that life expectancy issue. See, a lot of people think, well, gee, if I wait, I'm going to get a check that's 8% higher or 7% higher. That's not really how it works. And let me give you an example. Let's say I was to collect my benefits at age 62. And let's pretend for a minute at age 62, my check is going to be $1,000 per month at age 62. But if I waited until age 66, let's just say, to keep the math simple, my check was going to be $1,200 a month. So I said, I'm going to wait till age 66 to get my $1,200 a month. It seems like I'm getting a bigger check, right? But I gave up 4 years worth of checks. So I might have to live till age 78 or 80 to make up for all that time I waited getting the smaller checks. Does that make sense? I gave up 4 years of $1,000 checks just to get a bigger check at age 66. Why is this so important? Well, it's important because if you don't live long enough, if you don't live to about 78 or 80, it doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense to wait. So again, this is where we get into this life expectancy issue. It's different for people. It also is different no matter, depending on how much money you have. For instance, the wealthier you are, maybe you should collect early, because you don't need Social Security to be there when you're 80 or 90 to take care of you, and you might not want to leave that money in the system. And by the way, this is very important. Let's pretend for a minute right now you're sitting there, you've been retired for a few years, you need an additional $3,000 a month of income, and you haven't taken Social Security yet. So here I've got this choice. I need $3,000 a month. I can either take it out of my 401k, or I can take it from Social Security. Which should you take it from? My theory is, and I've seen this bear out over and over again, is you have a lot less control over Social Security than you do over your 401k. So I would lean towards taking it from Social Security. Again, going against that wisdom that says I should wait as long as possible. As you can tell, this gets a little bit complicated. And I know for some of you, I might have lost you because we're talking about a lot of details here. But I want you to understand that Social Security is a very important asset, and the decisions that go around it need to be taken very, very seriously, and it needs to be looked at in the context of your whole financial situation. People make that mistake of looking at Social Security like it's this isolated thing over here. Should I collect? Should I not collect? Should I wait? Should my spouse collect and me at the same time? Don't look at it like this isolated incident. Look at it as part of an entire financial plan. So, so important. What about taxes? None of us like to pay more taxes than we're supposed to, and yet many of you are. Social Security can be taxed if you collect it before your full retirement age. for most of you, and myself included, again, I'm 60 years old, my full retirement age is age 67. If I collect Social Security before 67, I'm going to pay this penalty tax if I'm still working. So this is one of the kind of taxes. And again, I said it's going to be taxed if you collect before your full retirement age. There's other taxes in here, but right now what I'm talking about is this penalty tax if I'm still working. So if you're still working, you probably shouldn't collect Social Security early, because if you make more than approximately $18,000 a year right now and you're collecting Social Security, you're going to have to give some of that Social Security back. So that's something I'm calling a tax. They call it a penalty, but in my mind, it's a tax. The other piece of Social Security that's taxed is if your income is a certain level, you're going to pay taxes on your Social Security. And people say, hey, I already paid taxes on that money. Well, yeah, you might have paid taxes on that money, but you're going to have to pay taxes on it again. And again, if you are a married couple and your income, and it's called your provisional income, so it gets kind of technical here, is over about $50,000, including Social Security, you're going to have to pay taxes on that Social Security. You want to try to reduce those taxes, and again, this is part of putting Social Security into the context of a full financial plan. Last but not least, again, we started by talking about Social Security as an asset, and the mistake people make is they look at Social Security in a silo. They don't take into account their other assets. Maybe it's a pension. Maybe they got several 401ks. Maybe they have an inheritance coming. Maybe they're a beneficiary of a trust fund. Maybe they want to give money away to their kids while they're alive. Maybe they want to put money in an irrevocable trust and lose control of it for the benefit of their kids or grandkids. There's so many different moving parts here, and we've got to look at Social Security as part of a full financial plan. If my Social Security is worth $400,000, I better be careful the way I take that money out. I want to minimize taxes. I want the timing to be right, and the only way to do that is talk to a financial professional that knows all the ins and outs. One of the big advantages of working with a financial professional, let's just take our firm, but we're not the only firm out there. There's plenty of good firms, but one of the big advantages is they've seen people just like you retire over and over, person after person. So you only have one retirement. A good financial firm that specializes in people that are about to retire has seen, perhaps like us, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 families retire. We know what your life is going to look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, from a financial standpoint. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we have a lot of wisdom because we have so many clients that have gone through that. So it's so important. Talk with a professional. Get that timing right. Make sure your other assets and your other accounts coordinate with your Social Security. So once again, thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, or even if you haven't enjoyed it, you might enjoy our next one. So subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the bell icon. Get all kinds of notifications for new retirement videos when you subscribe. Also, you can go to our website, johnsonbrunetti.com. Free guides and booklets that you can get, and we do workshops all over the Northeast and in the greater Atlanta area, so you want to make sure you get to one of those. Thanks again.